Hey guys, it's Kami, and today I'll try to explain you the differences between bosses in Blade&Soul, mainly on the example of first region is CBT1, so that is somewhere up to level 20, but since I have redone this video, I will also include renewed info about difficulty changes in CBT2, as well as comparison with bosses from second region up to level 30. If for some reason I will continue to play Blade&Soul in the next betas, and after leveling up to level 45 I will feel any differences, then I will let you know and make a separate video on the endgame bosses. So first of all, I will divide all bosses into 3 different categories. Category 1 Open World bosses, Category 2 Dungeon bosses, and Category 3 Final Dungeon bosses. Why would you need to kill any of those 3 types of bosses at all? Well, you can use them for different purposes. First of all, you need them to upgrade your gear, or I would better say items and materials that drop from them, which are required for upgrading your gear to the next tier. I will make a separate video about upgrading shortly after this one, so let's skip this part for now. Also, you need bosses for questing, for the most part those are daily quests, and there are plenty of those. Now let's look closer to each type separately, starting from more detailed view of an open world bosses. The first one that you will meet is Stalker Jiangshi, which is located in Moonshade Cemetery near Foshi Pyres. There are always a lot of people killing him, but don't worry, as on contrary of simple mobs, you will get the drop anyways, and so start attacking him right ahead. It doesn't matter who has given the most damage, it doesn't matter if there is a party of them or not, and most likely you will want to stay there for a while, because believe me, you will need a lot of drop from him. He drops his essence, which you will later use on Wheel of Fate, which I also may call rotation wheel or random wheel in my videos. Now you will have the obvious question, what will you get from this? You can get soul shield packs, which are useful, and you can carry them up to level 20, when you will be able to wear a bunch of better ones. But if you are unlucky as me, then you will have somewhere from 5 to 7 or maybe even more sets of those Stalker soul shields before you get the thing you farm for. And that thing drops from weapon chests, which are the second thing you get from that rotation wheel. And believe me, you will get a lot of weapons from the other classes, but not yours. Literally, tons of them. And you need only the one which is for your class. There is also the other way. You can get a specific key, which will give you a weapon only for your class. But unlike the normal keys, to get that key, you need to do daily dungeons. And those daily dungeons give you a chest, which has the random chance to give you that key. But considering that I haven't got even a single one so far, you would be better off just staying there for like half an hour, killing the Stalker Jiangshi, dropping tons of essence, and rotating the wheel. Just for the reference, I got like 5 to 6 weapons for each other class before I got for mine. So yeah, I'm pretty unlucky as always, and probably you will be at least a bit luckier, but still you will need a few essence to get whole soul shield set, as it is pretty good for the time being, and don't forget that you will need that weapon for yourself in any case, because that is required material to upgrade your current weapon to the next tier. Well, you can go further, but eventually you will return, or there is also one more alternative. Especially if you are more unluckier than me, then you can sell all those weapons on auction and buy the weapon for yourself if someone will sell it. Of course, if they will be tradable in the time that you will happen to play this game, because even now higher level weapons are untradable. And finally, you can also get Jiangshi costume. So let's summarize it. You can get soul shields, weapons, and costume. Note that those are specific to this boss. Later on, from open world bosses' essences, you will be able to get some jewelry, some won't give weapons, etc, etc. All open world bosses are pretty easy, and there are a lot of other people killing them. Maybe if you will play this game like 2 years later or so, there won't be that many people around and you will need to kill it yourself. But believe me, they are not that terribly difficult, neither they output a lot of damage. Same thing goes for other open world bosses, even on higher levels, you should be able to solo them, unless you are relatively bad at games. For instance, you can see some footage of me killing Golden Deva on your screens. Currently it is hard enough to record solo fight with him, because always I try, there is someone coming up. Also as a pro tip, if you kill Golden Deva on one channel, rightly after that you can switch to the next channel and you will be able to kill him once again, not waiting for his respawn, but you can't hop the channels all the time, there is a cooldown. Now let's move to the dungeon bosses. those are a bit tougher, and by that I mean that they will live longer while you kill them with relatively the same gear. You will need to figure out how they fight in order to avoid their attacks or have a lot of control skills. Especially there are dungeons with bosses that have a lot of minions with them, and those are a bit challenging if boss has control skills. Still, everything so far is relatively easily soloable if you're not playing with one mouse only, without even touching your keyboard, as well as can avoid and control. As I have previously mentioned, for the most part those bosses are for daily quests, but also they drop materials and weapons needed to upgrade your gear. About how to find out which bosses you need for upgrade and how to locate them, I will mention in my next video about upgrading, so stay tuned for that one. If I would have to compare the lower level dungeons and higher level dungeons, the bosses get a bit stronger, they have more damage, and also they get more targeted skills. So on the low level they mostly have markup skills on the ground, so you can avoid them easily, and also they catch them long. But the higher you go, the more targeted skills are, and you can't avoid them by just stepping aside. You will need to have evasive or invulnerability skills in order to avoid those. So yeah, as I have mentioned in my previous video, which you can check right there, this game is getting more and more top targeted, which is unfortunate in my opinion, but that's not the topic of this video. So finally let's move to the last type, final dungeon bosses. They are located in final dungeon of the region. So for the first region it is called Blackram Narrows. You will fight a few different bosses there, and all of them I would say are soloable easy enough, except the only one. I don't think you will be able to solo him easily on the level and with the gear you're expected to go there. Just to be clear, I'm not counting potion spamming here, and it is not the final boss. The final boss is relatively easy, even after his difficulty increase. I will mention about it a bit later. And the one which I'm talking about is called Blackram Enforcer Ma Parang. So what is so difficult about him? While you are fighting with him, there will constantly spawn a lot of mobs, and you will need to deal somehow with them, or they will kill you easily. Not even to mention that the boss has pretty long time with control skill, which will give those mobs a lot of time to beat you up if the boss will manage to catch you. So I would not recommend to solo it on level 20, but if you will want to, then the tactic is simple. You should deal the highest DPS on him that you can, and don't focus that much on mobs as they respawn. The faster you kill the boss, the faster that button mashing hell ends. Also in the dungeon, a good overall tactic is to kill Musketeers as soon as you spot them, that are those mobs with rifles, just because they can unknowingly stun you all the time. Now what was the deal with final boss there? He is pretty easy one, especially if you have a bunch of avoiding and invulnerability skills, or even a single one with fast cooldown, and even more so if you are not soloing. He attacks and casts pretty slowly, except one skill, so you can easily avoid almost all of those, even those that they have increased casting speed from CBT1 to CBT2, or so it seems like that's what the deal with difficulty increase was all about. And also it seems like as of CBT2 now he has a bit wider range on some skills than he previously had, as their markup is broken now and probably shows the range of CBT1, so make sure you don't forget about that. As for the tactic, it is pretty simple as well. There are 3 core things you need to do. First, avoid all markup skills. For the most part, you will have enough of time to just walk out of there, but if you were previously struck by his skill that slows movement speed, then use double click as button skill to fall backward out of the range, or any other evasive invulnerable skill you happen to have. Otherwise, you can get yourself in an endless slow movement speed skill casting loop. Second, avoid suicidal minions or kill them before they suicide bomb you. Pretty self-explanatory. You can also lure few of them together and use for lifesteal purposes. And third, the most important one, try to leave at least one evasive invulnerable skill ready to go for the boss grabbing skill. If he grabs you, then first of all you lose time, secondly, it deals quite some damage, and finally, you are exposed to suicide bombing minions. It is probably not that huge of a deal in a party, but if you will solo, then it definitely is. Both in first and second form, he uses that skill immediately after jumping, just as he starts laughing in first form and silently in second one. That is the one skill that I have mentioned about previously, that he casts almost instantly, so you won't have a lot of time to use your evasive or invulnerable skill, and surely will be grabbed by that one at least once. Anyway, if you're not hardcore player, or you're not few levels above that dungeon, both in experience and gear, then I would not recommend to solo it, as it just won't be worth it, at least by time spent. even if to count item speeding time at the end of dungeon if you go in party. If you don't have someone to go in party with, then you can find a party in a party finder or create one yourself and wait a few minutes for other players to join. So those are pretty much all the differences between bosses. Also, just as a tip, you don't need to run Blackram Narrows few times in order to get 5 materials for your weapon upgrade, as you will get 5 of those for the main storyline questing, almost right after you move to the next region, but on the other hand, later on, you will need 15 of those for upgrading closer to the level 30, but then you will be able to solo it quite a lot easier, so the choice is up to you. And that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.